TNA Wrestling crosses that line again as we are only 7 days away from the Emergence pay-per-view next coming Friday. TNA will be presenting Emergence, titles galore on the line. We'll get into that and everything else that happened on Impact in just a minute. But just remember to watch TNA Wrestling, get the TNA Plus app, get it downloaded, get it subscribed. If you want to include the pay-per-views in your package, get that championship package. If you want to pay a standalone to get these pay-per-views in, then you just pay the standard subscription cost. And you can watch Impact week in, week out, like me and so many thousand others. But TNA this week kicked off with the TNA heavyweight champion, NXT's very own Trick Williams kicked off, or as he calls it, Trick NA, going forward. And he's already, or immediately called out his opponent at Emergence, that being the Systems Moose. But he also blamed KC Navarro for their defeat last week. And there's a bit more on that when we get to it very, very shortly with First Class. And we'll certainly get into what happened with First Class. But he basically recapped his own win over Mike Santana, and he said he's used to beating people in their hometown, and it's going to be no different next week at Emergence. He did mock the family of Moose, which you kind of don't really want to do you wouldn't want to mock the family Moose. You don't really want to mock Moose for that matter. But he's going to take out the entire Moose family at Emergence. It was kind of like an old rock promo on Chris Jericho, if you remember, many years ago. But as Trick was continuing, Moose has had enough, and he ran to the ring and attacked Trick Williams, but the champion managed to cower away and get away from Moose and hold up the TNA Heavyweight Championship, which of course will be on the line next Friday at Emergence as Moose stood tall in the ring. Now, if you were to cast your mind back a few weeks, Tessa Blanchard attacked Gia Miller on TNA. Well, it was great this week because she did return. Actually, she did thank Gabby as well, who was not feeding for her, but she was filling in for her last week on last week or so for Impact, while she recovered from the actions of Miss Blanchard. But she did come back with a vengeance, saying they're all tired of Tessa's bullcrap and threatened to fucking kill Blanchard if she tried to put her hands on her. I mean, Gabby was shocked. I think the whole of the Impact Zone was shocked with that. Gia Miller, you go, girl. She wasn't standing for Tessa Blanchard shit anymore. It is awesome, awesome, awesome. And she did then welcome Joe Hendry, who also agreed it was great to have Gia Miller back. And he actually put her over as one of the toughest people in TNA at that point, and then proceeded to basically mock his opponent, which of course was Mustafa Ali this evening in the main event, and basically saying that Ali needs the entire of Order 4. He's hiding behind, really, a Dark 4, not Order 4. No, Order 4, right? Yeah, it was Order 4. Jesus Christ. And he's Secret Service, right? Hiding behind the Secret Service, which, to be fair, Ali has been doing. And he's going to prove that he's the better man against Ali in the main event tonight. Speaking of Mustafa Ali, if you want to watch the interview we recently conducted with him and a lot of other TNA talents, including Steve Maclin, including Jake Something, and the MF Brothers, go to the playlist option below, hit the special guest interview section. You'll find them all in there. I would very much appreciate you doing that, and I think you will enjoy it if you're a fan of TNA Wrestling. Now, last week on Impact, you remember, Sami Callihan challenged Mike Santana to a match at Emergence and said if he doesn't beat Santana at Emergence, he will hang them up. He will leave the boots in the ring. He will be done. Well, Santana come across Callihan backstage and accepted the challenge for Emergence next week. Both men shook hands, but Eric Young and the Northern Armory interrupt, and Eric Young did actually mock both of them for their failures. One against Moose, obviously, and Santana for losing to Trick at Slammiversary. Callahan kind of warned Santana off of attacking EY. It's not important at this stage. Cooler heads prevail if they have a cooler head between those two, but they will do battle next week, and Sami Callahan's career is on the line at Emergence. So we will see if he does manage to pull off the victory against the blue chipper that is Mike Santana. The next one, we go back to the Impact Zone for the International Championship match. Steve Maclin, Jake something. Well, I tell you what, this really wasn't a match. It was a fight in the Impact Zone. And actually, the match ended in a double count out. They were having a hard-hitting contest. And just to be quite honest, they were too busy brawling on the outside of the ring to listen to the 10 count, which I thought was actually brilliant. These two would go at it. I really hope that we do get it at Emergence between Maclin and something, maybe in a Falls Count Anywhere or something match, because these two were just ham hocking each other in this. It was a fight, a hoss fight, I think it's called nowadays. And yeah, I really want to see these two go at it again, hopefully in a Falls Count Anywhere or something along those lines at Emergence, but we will see. Steph Delander and Mance Warner were next. They were going to go to talk to Santino. There's nobody inside his office. And Steph Delander has an idea. And she pulls Mance Warner into the office. Yeah. More on that in a minute. Suffice to say, you probably know where I'm going with those two. Anyway, Cedric Alexander promo next. Look, he was talking about the X Division. He did put over Leon Slater as the youngest X Division champion, but he did say at Emergence that run will come to an abrupt end. Cedric Alexander, Leon Slater next week at Emergence, by the way. You know, match of the night all over it. It's going to be incredible. Looking forward to that one. Like I said, with Emergence and all the other TNA pay-per-views are available on TNA Plus. If you want to get that championship package, I would really suggest that you do so, because it's going to be incredible. TNA's Bound for Glory, by the way, in October has already sold 3,000 tickets 2 months ahead of schedule. Absolutely tremendous. You know, TNA is really, really on the up right now with the promotion with NXT, with all the action, everything they're doing. TNA is a brand to look out for, and hopefully a TV deal is right around the corner, as mentioned by Carlos Silva, of course. Anyway, tag team action next. The Elegance Brand against Lei Ying Lee and Xia Brookside. Lei Ying Lee and Xia Brookside picking up the victory in this, planting M by Elegance with the spinning face buster. These both matches that have been on Impact so far that we've saw have been solid. They're absolutely solid. And this, you know, the women of TNA continue to be the highlight right now of the promotion. You know, I think the M by Elegance is a wonderful addition to the Elegance brand. And Xia Brookside and Lei Ying Lee, I think, you know, tag team title contention. Obviously, Ash is busy this week with Jacy, Jayne, the Knockouts Championship, trying to bring that back home. So obviously, Em and Heather continue their, well, basically freebirding it in a lot of ways with the Elegance brand. And although I think Lei Ying Lee and Xia Brookside should well be into title contention, and in fact, we may be able to let you know. We'll run through the Emergence card at the end of this show, and I think the title was already on the line for Emergence, so we'll get into that in a minute. But great tag match, Knockouts division, superb in TNA, and those additions that TNA have made: Harley Hudson, Myla Grace, the former Jakara Jackson, Myra Sade, who's in action in a minute in TNA. Astute business from TNA, real astute business being made here with these acquisitions of new talents, especially in the Knockouts division, which I said on this show may have needed just that little bit of sprinkling of some new people in there because it was getting a bit repetitive. Not anymore. It's brilliant. And also, what I liked about this in the first two matches on TNA that we've watched, no interference. You'll be that just makes such a big difference right now to TNA wrestling for me because it's been a bit of a bugbear of mine recently. That's for sure. Right, we go back to Santino Marella at this point, who's with his daughter, Ariana Grace, and they go to walk into the office that he left open, that Steph DeLanda and Mance Warner are in. Well, as Gia walks into the office, she gasps. Marella screams that his office has been defiled, and he said, "This is TNA Wrestling, not National Geographic Channel." It's mating season on TNA, folks. He did apologize to Ariana for having to watch what he saw, and Ariana leaves. But Santino, mate, voyeurism now, Santino, is that where you're going? Because you had another little peek at what was going on in that office. You naughty Italian man, you. Unbelievable, Santino. By the way, commiserations on your loss to Ethan Page on NXT the other week, but voyeurism now in TNA. Unbelievable. Speaking, well, not speaking, back to the Elegances, who lost that tag match earlier on. Ash by Elegance is not happy because she can't deviate the focus away, and she was hoping that they were going to take care of business. Well, they didn't take care of business, and she's not happy about them, and basically tells them to leave because she needs to focus on that women's knockouts title match against Jacy Jayne coming up. She's not happy at all. Now, speaking of not happy at all, you would have heard in the opening segments Trick Williams basically blaming Casey Navarro for the defeat last week. Well, Casey Navarro and AJ Francis come out to Impact and for another first class penthouse. Casey Navarro has an announcement to make. He's on crutches. He re-aggravated his injury from a couple of weeks ago, and he's suffering from a torn ACL. And AJ Francis was going to console Casey Navarro, but instead basically said, next man up, and reintroduces to TNA and to First Class the other founding father, Rich Swann, returns to TNA Wrestling. He's also going to be at NWA 77 next weekend as well. So he's going to have Emergence and he's going to be involved in NWA 77 in just a few short weeks' time. So, but Rich Swann back in TNA Wrestling at the expense especially in First Class's sense, at the expense of KC Navarro, who they have basically kicked out of First Class. They sent him back into the back, and now First Class are back to, well, I wouldn't say full strength, but are back to the OG2. I do think that was surprising for me, but I do think that will be the making of Casey Navarro. Casey Navarro is a tremendous, tremendous talent. I've seen him over here at Progress Wrestling. He was great. And my belief is now he hasn't got to worry about First Class in a lot of ways. He can actually concentrate on being the talent that he actually is. And hopefully the injury isn't too serious and he's not out for too long. A torn ACL, though, I would imagine to put him out for some bit of time. But he's now not back in First Class anymore and will be on his own. We did mention that earlier on the former Jakara Jackson, Myra Slade. And on this week's episode, she made her, well, I think her debut back. I can't remember now. It's been a while against Vicious Vicky. And she didn't take too long to beat Vicious Vicky with the finish her, as she calls it, for the win. But I think Myra Slade is in the right place right now. TNA is the right place for her. It's the right place, for to really, we've said this time and time again on this show, how being on TV week in, week out, getting your character development, getting that connection with the crowd. I know she was on NXT and she done very, very well on NXT. But I feel as if this is the right move for her. She was solid in NXT, good stint there. Could really be the making of Mara Slade here. Extremely talented. She's in the right place. They love making stars in TNA. This could be a match made in heaven for her. Um, but now, it's called, well, she may have the Knockouts Championship in her sights, which brings me nicely to Jacy Jayne, Ash by Elegance, Ash cashing in her shot against Jacy Jayne in this. And, well, it was a decent match for what it was, but that Masha Slamovich come out and attacked well, she basically attacked Jacy Jayne, resulting in a DQ. But at the after that match, Jayne then started to attack Masha Slamovich, calls out the rest of Fatal Influence. But that brings out Laying Lee and Zaya Brookside and the rest of the Knockouts division to clear the ring and basically left Masha, Laying Lee, and Zaya standing tall. But, you know, I don't think Ash will be too happy about that because that did cost Ash the match. Now, again, it was a good match, and TNA are still without the two main championships on their brand, and it was a chance for that to change. So I think Masha. I think sometimes it's bigger picture. AJ Francis and First Class were very much siding with Trick Williams. You know, that's their prerogative. The Knockouts really should have thought about this. Masha Slamovich should have thought about it. Ash by Elegance wins that championship. Yeah, Ash may be annoying to her, but it brings the championship back to TNA. That's the most important thing. It shouldn't matter who the champion is. All it matters is bringing that goal back to home, right? Because as an MF said on their interview with us, which you can see in those playlists, it's the outsiders. The outsiders are running the asylum right now in TNA wrestling, and it isn't great. And it isn't a great look for them. We'll see what happens as we go forward on TNA. But the Hardys were backstage right now, and they're obviously TNA Tag Team Champions once again. Going to defend TNA's honor. They were talking about perhaps defending again in other promotions as well, and they're looking forward to whoever steps up in front of them at Emergence. Seem more motivate. They seem to be having a lot of fun there. Jeff's in good spirits, which is great to see. The Hardys once again reign supreme. Their opponents will actually be announced. We'll be able to tell you them very, very shortly on TNA. In fact, right now, Santino comes to the ring for his announced the Emergence. Some big matchups. The Knockouts Tag Team Championships will be on the line in a fatal four-way. Laying Lee and Zia Lee are included in that, as are Fatal Influence from NXT, by the way. And I think the Inspiration as well. TNA could lose another championship to NXT next Friday at Emergence. That'll be 3 championships that could possibly be on TNA. He did call out the Nemeths after. He suspends the brothers for putting their hands on security last week. They won't be getting a match against the Hardys. Instead, that match belongs to the Rascals. They're going to get an opportunity again against the Hardys. And as Ryan threatens to sue TNA, Morella says Nick will be in action at Emergence, so he's suspended for a couple of weeks, and Nick Nemeth will take on the hometown man. Of course, that is Cody Deaner. But anyway, now next week we have a stacked show on TNA. It's going to be great. Leon Slater and the Hardys team up again against Cedric Alexander and the Rascals just before Emergence. These two sets of opponents collide in what will be a colossal, which I believe will be the main event of TNA. That will be awesome next week on TNA to see that. Matt Cardona returns to take on John Schuyler of Order 4. Mike Santana will go one-on-one with Eric Young ahead of his match with Sami Callihan at Emergence. There is the King's Speech by Frankie Kazarian. That will have Something and Maclin involved in it. So that's going to be big, probably leading towards a match at Emergence. Hopefully, no countouts, no disqualifications, falls count anywhere, something along those lines. And the Inspiration return to Impact Wrestling, and they take on Myla Grace and Harley Hudson in what will be a fantastic match in the knockouts tag division. Again, that sprinkling of dust over in the knockouts tag division. It would be fantastic. Main event time. Joe Hendry, Ali on Impact. Great, great main event. Another main event. Ali continues to prove he is one of the most consistent performers on the TNA roster. He did it, and there was interference in this match, but I'm all for it because Agent Zero is one that's been basically highlighted over these last few weeks. His involvement in the closing minutes of this match, in my opinion, implies that TNA have big plans for him. I think he's going to be something special. I think they've got their eye on him. I don't think he basically interfered to set up the victory for Ali in this match with the 450. But because he interfered, because it was against Joe Hendry, that would imply to me that TNA have some big plans for him. It also, I think, means Hendry will bounce back eventually in this. I don't think it will be too long before Joe bounces back into contention for championships. But he's Agent Zero is going to be a big plans, I think, for him in TNA. It looks that way, and I'm all for it. And I don't mind interference in that one, by the way, because it was justified. It's not too bad if it's, and again, we didn't have it all night, really. So happy to report on that. But let's just run through the matches that have been announced for Emergence. So Mike Santana, Sami Callihan. Callihan will basically leave it in the ring if he loses the match, maybe retiring. Ryan Nemeth, the hometown man, in a single. Oh, it was Nick. Maybe I'm wrong. The Hardys will defend the TNA Tag Team Championships against the Rascals, Zachary Wentz and Myron Reed, who is deputizing, of course, for Trey Miguel, who's out. Now, maybe this is a spoiler. Steve Maclin, Jake something is going to be on the line. Well, the International Championship will be on the line. No disqualification, no count out match. What a hoss fight that's going to be, guys, honestly. The four-way tag. The Elegance Brand, Ash and Heather, The Inspiration, Fatal Influence, Lei Ying Lee and Xia Brookside for the Knockouts Tag Team Championship. TNA could lose another bit of championship gold to NXT. Let's hope not. In the match of the night for me, Leon Slater one-on-one with Cedric Alexander for the X Division Championship. Leon's first defense of Z title. And finally, NXT's Trick Williams will put the TNA World Championship on the line against Moose from the System. Moose gets an opportunity to bring back the TNA gold to the brand. Great episode of Impact this week. Really, really good. Solid matches. Not so much on the interference, but it was there when it mattered and it made sense, which I enjoy. So all good this week for TNA. Check it out next week as we move towards Emergence next Friday. The only place you can catch that action is the TNA Plus app. Get it downloaded, get subscribed. If you want to include your pay-per-views in that package, get the championship one. If you want to pay for your pay-per-view separately, get your standard package. But you will be watching some great action on TNA Wrestling. You can watch some great action on our channel as well by following us at HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, and hitting the Turnbuckle podcast on all other social media platforms. And until next time, everybody, cross the line and stay safe.